nations against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Here's today's prophecy update. It is now official. Antonio Guterres of Portugal has been chosen as the new Secretary General of the United Nations. Guterres is a lifelong socialist and served as president of the Socialist International. His term at the UN will begin on January 1 of 2017. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Samantha Power, praised Guterres as supremely qualified to be Secretary General and stressed he was chosen at a time when the world looks to the United Nations to do more than it has ever done before. Isn't it startling that our U.S. government would describe a socialist as being supremely qualified to lead the world? Does this indicate that our present government here in America is really socialistic? We'll talk about it on today's edition of End of the Age. Well, to say that I was shocked is an understatement when I read the description of Samantha Power concerning the new Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, when I heard her description of him as being supremely qualified. Now, even more startling is that most of the world is singing the same song. Does this mean that most of the world is now socialistic? I might just tell you, the Bible prophesies that the world will be under a socialistic one-world government very soon when the Antichrist comes to power. Are we actually seeing everything set up right now? Well, the answer is yes, we are. But that doesn't mean we have to like it, because it's not going to turn out good. It's going to be an utter disaster. Let me give you a little bit more information. Let's go to the Israel National News. And this particular article is entitled, Danan Congratulates New UN Secretary General. Now, Mr. Danan is the ambassador from Israel to the United Nations. And here's what the article tells us. The UN General Assembly on Thursday appointed Antonio Guterres as the new Secretary General of the United Nations. The 193 member states adopted by consensus a resolution formally naming the former Prime Minister of Portugal as UN chief for a 5-year term beginning January 1. The first former head of government to become UN chief also called for determined action to confront terrorists and populists. Now let's pause there. I want you to catch this. So right off the bat, Mr. Guterres is calling for the nations to confront terrorists and populists who reinforce each other in their extremism. Now, just to make sure that you understand what a populist is, he is putting populist in the same class as terrorist. Now, you've probably noticed, if you're following the American political campaign right now, that Donald Trump is being called a populist. So what is a populist then? I have the definition for you. Populist is a member or adherent of a political party seeking to represent the interest of ordinary people. But another definition of populist is nationalism. So, if you seek to represent ordinary people instead of the establishment, if you seek to represent ordinary people instead of those people who would establish a new world order, then you're a populist, and in Mr. Guterres' opinion, you're as bad as a terrorist. He's actually lumping Donald Trump in with the terrorists. This is not a good start. The article goes on to say, we must make sure that we are able to break these alliances between all those terrorist groups or violent extremists on one side and the expression of populism or xenophobia on the other side, he said. What's xenophobia, by the way? Well, one of the definitions of xenophobia is nationalism. What's he saying? He's saying if you don't believe in open borders, you're a xenophobe. You want your nation to keep its own national characteristics, and you're a believer in national sovereignty instead of a one world government. Ladies and gentlemen, the new head of the UN is a dyed-in-the-wool socialist. He's a Roman Catholic, and he believes in one world government. He's from the European Union, and he was one of the driving forces behind the adoption of the Lisbon Treaty, which is the treaty that abolished national sovereignty in Europe, and it actually serves as the Constitution of the United States of Europe that was adopted on November the 3rd of 2009. Are you getting all this? I know I'm throwing a lot at you all at one time. Now, I want to take you back over word for word what U.S. Ambassador Samantha Power, she's the ambassador from the U.S. to the UN. Here's what it said. U.S. Ambassador Samantha Power praised Guterres as supremely qualified to be Secretary General and stressed he was chosen at a time when the world looks to the United Nations to do more than it has ever done before. Not me. I don't want the United Nations to do more than it's ever done before. I want the United Nations to go away. The United Nations is reaching for more and more power, and those who believe in one world government are shifting more and more power to the United Nations, and Samantha Power, well, obviously, that's what she believes. So, let's analyze this. Our ambassador, Samantha Power, praised a socialist. Remember when socialism was a horror story? Remember when socialism, well, I'm talking about the days of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR. Remember the Cold War fought between free enterprise and socialism? Remember the day the Berlin Wall fell? And Newsweek magazine had a big, bold headline, "Socialism is dead. It will never rise again." Remember those days? When everybody said socialism, we want nothing to do with that. That's bondage, that's slavery, that's governmental control of everything. Well, then we turn around and here's Mr. Bernie Sanders running for the nomination for the Democratic Party, and Hillary Clinton pretty much agrees with him on everything. And so Bernie Sanders is he's a confessed socialist. He'll tell you in a heartbeat, yes, I believe in socialism. And yet, Hillary Clinton embraces almost all of the same stances that he embraces. So I have to ask you this one question. Has the Democratic Party of the United States of America become socialistic? As a matter of fact, has some of the Republican Party become socialistic? Is that the reason that President Obama was able to get socialized medicine passed here in America? And don't make any mistake, Obamacare is socialized medicine. The government took control of 20% of the American economy in one fell swoop, just like that. Okay, now Samantha Power says that this socialist is supremely qualified to lead the world. Now, I've known for a long time that the Democratic Party was truly the Socialist Party. Do you remember back in 2008 when candidate Obama at the time was campaigning and he met a man by the name of Joe the plumber? And Joe came right out and asked him, so tell me, are you in favor of redistributing our wealth? Are you in favor of wealth redistribution, which is a central plank in the platform of international communism? And Mr. Obama said, well, I do believe we need to pass the wealth around. That's the way it was said. So Guterres is a socialist, a Catholic, and is from the European Union. The Bible teaches that that's what the Antichrist will be. He will be a socialist. He will be from the European Union, and he will have a very close association with the Roman Catholic Church because he's going to rule over the revived Holy Roman Empire. If you know your history, the Holy Roman Empire was born in 800 AD when Pope Leo III placed a crown on the head of Charlemagne, saying, I now crown you emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. And for the next 1,000 years, there were two rulers in Europe, a political leader and a spiritual leader, working together for 1,000 years. It's called the Holy Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire ceased to exist in 1806 when Napoleon defeated the last Holy Roman Emperor, Francis II, defeated him, and they declared the Holy Roman Empire dead. However, the idea did not die. It has now resurfaced, and the Holy Roman Empire was reborn on November the 3rd of 2009. It's called the European Union. It was reborn with the passage of the Lisbon Treaty, which the new Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, was one of the driving forces behind the adoption of the Lisbon Treaty. So, this man is a socialist, a Roman Catholic, and he's from the European Union, where the Antichrist must come from. Now, don't get ahead of me. I am in no way accusing Mr. Guterres of being the Antichrist, but he is now heading the one world governmental system, the only one that exists on earth. The United Nations was born to be a one world governmental system. He's now the head for the next 5 years, and he could be the head for the next 10 years. So he's going to be a central player. And oh, by the way, he's the first head of state to ever hold the position. Up until now, they've always chosen someone that was not a former head of state, but he served as head of Portugal for several years as head of the Socialist Party. He also was the head of the Socialist International. Now, what's the Socialist International? If you don't know, you better, because there's this huge organization that believes in Marxism. Mr. Shimon Peres was a member of the Socialist International, and he was a big believer in Marxism. When he and his wife were dating, I read his autobiography. He told how they would sit and read Das Kapital, the works of Marx and Engels. He would read that. They were, as young people, they were idealistic. They were studying Marxism. Well, he's very much was involved in the Labor Party before his recent death. He was the head of the Labor Party for a long time, and the Labor Party is a member of the Socialist International. So look at what we've got. We have got our ambassador to the United Nations representing us, appointed by Barack Obama, who believes in wealth redistribution, saying this man is supremely qualified. This socialist, head of the Socialist International, I can't believe I'm saying these words, that he is supremely qualified. Now, let's go back in time a moment. Let's go back to the Cold War. The Cold War, it was the capitalist West against the socialist East. The USSR dominated all of Eastern Europe, and we were at Cold War with them. America was the dominant force in the West, and that included all of Western Europe. And so for 40 years, we waged ideological battle, and we were in this huge arms race until finally we outpaced the Soviet Union, and they realized they could not win. So Mikhail Gorbachev came along, and he allowed the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. Everybody said, free enterprise, capitalism has won. Socialism is dead. Big, bold letters across the front of the Newsweek magazine. I'll never forget it. Socialism is dead. Well, I watched this because I didn't believe it at the time, because I knew what the prophecies say, that the end-time world government of the Antichrist will be a red beast, and red's the symbol of socialism or communism in the Bible. And so I didn't believe it at the time. As a matter of fact, the very first edition of Endtime magazine, 1991, 25 years ago, our very first edition showed Mikhail Gorbachev with a sword through the throat of the red dragon, which had just come bursting through the Berlin Wall. And I asked the question in that edition, is socialism really dead? Well, it didn't take very long to get the answer, because within 9 years, 13 of the 15 Western European countries that were supposedly the bastion of free enterprise, 13 out of 15 had voted in of their own voluntary free will socialist governments. How did that happen? I thought we won the Cold War. Now then, all of our buddies have gone socialist. And socialism was trying to wrap its slimy fingers around the United States economy and the United States government. And the United States kept passing more and more social legislation. So, how did all this happen? Well, there's a dirty little secret that nobody's telling anybody. While we were winning the arms war, socialism was winning the ideological battle. They were infiltrating college presidencies. They were putting their professors in key positions. They were running for membership on the curriculum committees. And so they were choosing books that would glorify socialism and would criticize capitalism. Rupert Murdoch said it this way a few years after the fall of the Berlin Wall. When he saw the reassertion of socialism, he said, if socialism is dead, why won't it lay down? Very penetrating question, to say the least. So now, socialism was supposed to be dead in 1989, and here we are in 2016, and the world has elected a very, very prominent socialist. He was the head of the Socialist International. And they have elected a very prominent socialist to preside over the one world governmental system that they hope will become stronger and stronger and do more now than ever. And oh, by the way, don't look now. Not only is Mr. Guterres a socialist and a European and a Roman Catholic, but Pope Francis is a socialist. Have you heard his speeches? Watch for them. He loves to talk about social justice, which is a very tricky term to dress up socialism, but if that's all it is. He loves to talk about social justice, and he loves to criticize capitalism. He paints it as cruel and inhuman and victimizing people, and the big capitalist walking on the heads of other people. And this is being taught throughout the world. It's being taught in our colleges. That's the reason if you ask the normal millennial today, that's those young people from 18 to 35, so how do you feel about socialism? Well, sounds good to me. As a matter of fact, if you ask them, would you give us a good definition of socialism? Can't do it. So we've got the head of the EU. He's now socialist, Catholic, and European. We got the Pope who's Catholic, socialist, and since he now lives in Italy, he's European. And now we've got vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine. He's a socialist, attended Jesuit school, went down to South America where he spent a year associating with the Jesuits who were embracing liberation theology. And liberation theology says if Jesus were here today, he would be a Marxist. He would take from those that have, give to those that have not. Somebody's got to ask the question. I guess it might as well be me. Is the Democratic Party that we have today the Socialist Party of America? You better believe it is. And if you do not wake up to that realization, America has already voted in one socialistic government, the government of Barack Obama. And don't ever forget it, he is a dyed-in-the-wool socialist. He is also a dyed-in-the-wool believer in one world government. He calls it multilateralism. What does that mean? Well, that's different than unilateralism. That means America acts on its own. America is sovereign. But he doesn't believe in sovereignty. That's the reason he does not want a wall built. That's the reason he refused to obey the laws which require him to defend our borders. You realize it's a law that those borders have to be defended? But President Obama has just set his jaw and ignored those laws, and he refuses to obey the law. He should be impeached, of course. You say that's radical. No, it's not. It's radical to avoid the laws. It's when you take a vow and you put your hand on the Bible and you vow that you are going to execute the laws that are passed by Congress, and then you don't do it, you have violated your oath of office. You should be impeached. Now, it's too late for that now, obviously, because there's an election coming in about 20 days or so. But what we're really choosing between right now is a socialist and a free enterpriser, a capitalist and a socialist. That's what you will be choosing between as you go to the polls. Now, I'm not naming any candidates right now. I don't have to, of course. And if you were just voting for persons, it may put you in a dilemma which one to vote for. But if you're voting issues, then that becomes very easy, because this will be a vote between socialism and capitalism. Now, Hillary Clinton was asked when she was running against Bernie Sanders, so are you a socialist? She didn't. She sidestepped it, as she is so skillful at doing. She said, I'm a progressive. Well, I looked up some of those things, and there's an article which is entitled Difference Between Socialism and Progressivism. Let me just read it to you. Socialism is an economic system where the government runs and controls the production resources collectively owned by society to achieve its common good. Progressivism, on the other hand, is a political philosophy that seeks to raise the standard of living of the average member of society in order to achieve a positive social change, whatever all that means. Then this statement: while socialism and progressivism both seek the economic and political equality of all members of society, they differ in their views and approaches as to how to go about it. But they both intend to seek the equality of all members of society. That means I'm supposed to have everything you've got. You're supposed to have everything I got. If I won't work and you do work, I'm still supposed to have everything you have. And the only way to get that is to take away from what you produce and give it to me. That's socialism. That's also progressivism. There's a big block of progressives. There's actually a little progressive club in our Congress. I think there's at least 50 of our Congress people that belong to it right now, and Hillary Clinton is one of those people. Okay, I'm almost taking my own breath away when I think about what we are facing right now. And it's not just the three people that I've named. It's on and on and on. And Samantha Power spilled the beans when she said, the socialist, Mr. Guterres, who was the head of the Socialist International, is supremely qualified to head the United Nations, especially when we anticipate it doing more than it has ever done before. So is this a time for Christians and Americans to go to sleep at the wheel? We better not, because let me tell you, the Marxists and the Socialists, same thing, are working like there's no tomorrow. They're working to bring in a one world socialistic government that will all be placed under the authority of the United Nations. You know, this thing called international law, you believe in international law? Well, I don't. That means the United States is no longer sovereign, that there's a higher law than us. You have to denounce American sovereignty to embrace international law. But that's where they're pushing us, and they continually exalt international law as something to be embraced and to be desired. And all the time they're weaving the web that's going to bind all of us together in one world socialist government, just like it's predicted in the Bible. If you want to understand more about it, you might want to get our DVD, Holy Roman Empire Reborn. I explain the whole thing there. Or you may actually want to order the DVD, True Christianity versus False Christianity. It describes what the one world government's going to look like in the end time. Or you may want to get the DVD, Will Islam Rule the World, and Will the Antichrist be a Muslim? But let me tell you what you definitely want to do. You need to join us as a partner. We need you. We need to spread the word out more than we can now. Our media bills are heavy and they are high. We struggle every month to meet them. We have wonderful partners who enable us to do that. But we need you on board to help us as well. Whether it's $20 a month, $25 a month, $50, $100, whatever God lays on your heart, I am urging you today, don't sit this one out. Join Endtime Ministries right now. The number to call to be a partner, 800-END-TIME. Very simple, 1-800-363-8463. You've been thinking about it? Do it. 800-END-TIME.
From Here to Armageddon, a new exciting 8-lesson series to share with your friends and family. Order yours right away.
Answering many questions like, how far are we from the Battle of Armageddon? What will happen between now and then? Where are we on the timeline? Your questions answered in this exciting 8-lesson series, From Here to Armageddon.
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463. Order yours right away.
Who would have thought it that the Berlin Wall is right there in the prophecies of the Bible? I'm holding here a chunk of the Berlin Wall. A friend of mine was in Berlin the night that the wall fell, November 9, 1989. He cut a piece of the wall for himself, twice this large. He was kind enough to cut it in half. He had read my book, A Message for the President, in which I had stated 3 years before this that the Berlin Wall would come down, the two Germanys would be reunited, and that would be the event that would mark the beginning of the one world governmental system called the New World Order.
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME to order The Berlin Wall in Bible Prophecy.
If your radio station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the Watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the Archives button.
We will be taking your calls in this half of our program. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. To reach our operators, that number is 800-END-TIME. It's easy to remember. Operators, 800-END-TIME. To be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME. We do have open lines right now, so if you'd like to be on the air, if you have questions about what I'm talking about today, if you don't understand what socialism really is, or is socialism actually communism? Is there a difference? What are we doing right now in the United States of America? And why would our UN ambassador praise the election of a dyed-in-the-wool socialist? I mean, he's been socialist all of his life. He was the head of a socialist party in Portugal when he became the president of Portugal. And he also served as the president of the Socialist International. Of all the socialists of the world, he is the head honcho, and now then he's the head of the world government. Wow. I keep pinching myself. Is this really real? Are we really this far down the pike? And what will keep America out of this one world socialistic government? I'm almost speechless, to tell you the truth. While you're dialing, the number to call is 877-END-TIME to be on the phone with me. I want to go, I just looked up socialism. I looked up worldsocialism.org. It's their official website. And it has right there the definition of socialism. Central to the meaning of socialism is common ownership. This means the resources of the world being owned in common by the entire global population. So nobody owns anything. You don't own your house, you don't own your car, you don't own your business. It's all governmentally controlled. Try it. You'll like it. The Soviets tried it. They liked it for a while until it destroyed their country and caused their economy to go belly up. As a matter of fact, everybody that's tried it, it has ended up being an unmitigated disaster. Now then, some of these smart people in America think it's time to try it. We've got these kids coming out of college who've never built a business in their whole lives, and they think they know how it should be done because professors who have never built a business in their whole lives, they've just been to socialist school, they tell them, oh, free enterprise is cruel and unfair. Now, let me tell you what unfair is in my mind. And that is, if I work for something and then you come and take it away and give it to somebody that won't work. Now, not everybody that receives assistance won't work. Some of them are unfortunate. Some of them have handicaps. I think those people, all of us would love to help. But I don't think we enjoy helping people that are able-bodied that won't work. I don't think we like doing that. Because you see, when the government taxes the populace heavy and take that money and give it to someone else, what they're doing, they're holding a gun to your head, because if you don't pay your taxes, you'll end up in jail for tax evasion. So the government holds a gun to your head and takes your money away from you that you earned. It's yours, but they take it. They take a nice cutout for their nice salaries as governmental officials, and then they give the money to, part of the money to somebody else. Now that's the way socialism or Marxism works. And that's what is weighting us down. Do you know the reason that the income of the average American has not gone up in 15 years? It's because the taxes keep going higher and the government takes more and more. Right now in Sweden, the government takes 75% of their income. Well, America, we're not far behind. We're getting close to 50% if you count income tax, state tax, property tax, excise tax, gasoline tax, sales tax. By the time you stack all those taxes up, the statistics show that we're paying close to 50% of our income. And oh, by the way, you've got to buy insurance now. Obamacare, that's another big chunk. I think it takes about $4,000 a year out of the average person's income now. So that now they just now slammed us with another huge tax. On and on and on it goes. Now listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not really here to speak politically. I'm here to speak religiously. Whatever form of government we live under, the real key is, do you follow Jesus Christ? Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. You can live in the middle of tyranny and have the joy of Jesus Christ in your heart. The apostles and Jesus himself lived under a tyrannical Roman government, and yet they had the greatest spiritual awakening the world had ever known up until that time. We're getting ready to have another spiritual awakening. How will that happen? Everybody seems to be so deceived. Well, it seems that way, but not everybody is. I mean, close to 50% of the American populace has been staying home at election time because they knew they were voting for Tweedledee or Tweedledum, because most people in both parties had fallen under the siren song of socialism. Do you realize that 50% of all cabinet members in the last 50 years have come from a private club? No matter whether the Republicans were in power or the Democrats were in power, 50% of all cabinet members. That's the reason that whoever you vote for, the same old ends up happening. Tweedledee or Tweedledum. You say, what's that private club? It's a private club called the Council on Foreign Relations that was established in 1916. It was designed to prepare politicians for the government. And so just when they're coming out of high school, they put them in the political incubator. They may send them over for an education as Rhodes Scholars over in England or other choice schools where they know they control the staff, the professors, and the curriculum. And then they prepare them all to become your leaders, and they enact the laws, and they are leading us one step at a time toward this thing called New World Order. You say, oh, I don't believe in the New World Order. Why do you have it in your hip pocket then? You say, what are you talking about? I am telling you that on the back of your dollar bill is the words New World Order. And yes, it does mean something. Take it out, look at it, turn it over. Now, unless you can read Latin, you can't read it. But I took a couple of years of Latin in school, and I can tell you exactly what it means. Under the pyramid with the blue ribbon, it says Novus Ordo Seclorum. Novus is Latin for new, Ordo is order, Seclorum is secular or world. Yes, they do want it to be a secular world order because they don't want God any place near it. That's the reason they want God out of the schools. They want God out of the military. They want God out of the courthouse. They just want God out. So, New World Order or New Secular Order. And guess who put it there? The same one that gave us the United Nations, Franklin D. Roosevelt, 1935. Put it on the back of your dollar bill. And he also was the driving force behind the establishment of the United Nations at the end of World War II. And so today, we have a socialist, one of the world's leading socialists. He's now the head of the United Nations. Now, I don't know him personally. He may be a polite man. He may be a nice man. He just may be under the spell of this evil political ideology called socialism. I'm not here in any way to vilify the man's character. All I'm telling you is we have never been so close to what the Bible describes as the end time one world government. How close are we? Can't tell you for sure. Could this be America's last chance to back up from the brink? Well, I'll tell you what. It's time to go to the phones. Let's go right now to Florida. Joseph is calling. Hello, Joseph.
Hello. I'd just like to say one thing, and I'm looking at it right in front of me on the internet, and I did this to back myself up. There once was a Democratic Party that thought they had all the answers, and this is for your listeners, and they did everything they could to make this Democratic Party work. And finally, in their twisted minds, they said, well, we have the answer. And what was their answer? They killed between 5 and 6 million Jews. And that Democratic Party changed its name from the People's Democratic Nazi Party to the Nazi Party of Germany.
And Nazi stands for National Socialist Party.
Exactly.
Well, you're right, Joseph. Anytime you get governmental control, it leads you inevitably to dictatorship, and power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the more absolute Adolf Hitler's power became, the more horrible his empire became. It wasn't just under him, however. Anytime you give government control, you're going to have tyranny, and that's what happened with Joseph Stalin. The history books tell us he killed between 20 and 60 million people. Nobody knows how many, because he controlled information. He controlled the history books. He controlled the media. Then along came Mao Zedong and took over China in 1949 when communism swept through China. Then they killed about 60 million people in the Cultural Revolution. When socialism comes, they want control, and whoever they cannot control, they have to dispose of.
Another socialist was a man named Fidel Castro.
Yes, and of course his brother, Raul Castro. But if we start naming them, we'll be here all day, because almost all of Europe is now moving toward socialism. About 1 or 2% of Europe now attends church, even though they have the traditional name of a Christian nation, yet they're not really a Christian nation. But they will form an alliance with Catholicism very soon. Not just with the Catholicism, both Catholicism and Protestantism, according to Bible prophecy, is getting ready to merge together and form an alliance with this one world governmental system. The whole world will think peace on earth has arrived, because now you have religion and politics working together. But when they get together, anyone who is not willing to bow the knee to this new world order will be considered an enemy of the state. I mean, already I read the article to you today where Guterres said that terrorist and populist. Well, I looked up populist, and one of the definitions of populism is nationalism. Well, I'm a nationalist, and most of you are too. Listen to me today. You believe you do not want to live under a one world government. You don't want a United Nations somewhere making the rules. We like our own Constitution, our our Declaration of Independence, our Bill of Rights. We want to keep that. But guess what? Many people don't want you to keep it. The Democratic Party is determined you're going to be swept straight into the arms of a socialist one world government. We're well on the way. Well, I know that I'm being very emphatic today, but let me tell you, it's time that somebody speak up and say that the Democratic Party is the Socialist Party.
Take your understanding of the end time to a new level with our Outlines and Quizzes workbook. This workbook accompanies our Understanding the End Time 14 lesson series. As you watch each lesson, follow along with the outlines, then take a quiz and check your answers at the end. These are all contained in one convenient workbook, so you can study as well as teach prophecy wherever you go. Use it as a study guide to cement main points and scriptures that Irvin teaches in each lesson. It's also a great tool if you host an end time Bible study. Help your group solidify what they're learning by getting a copy for each person to follow along with the video and then to take home and study on their own. Get the workbook by calling 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com and be ready to instruct many as the scripture says.
Mr. Guterres, who now is the head of the United Nations, actually beginning January 1, previously served as UN High Commissioner for Refugees. That's what he's been doing before being chosen to head up the whole UN by the 15-member Security Council Wednesday. So if you like the world refugee situation, you're going to love the United Nations, because now the person that's been in charge, he's the UN's High Commissioner for Refugees. All these problems we're having with refugees all over the world, well, now that man is in charge of the United Nations. Why all this refugee thing? Because they want to tear down all national boundaries so we can have a one world government, a world without borders. Listen to this. I'm looking at an article. This is from thedailycaller.com. This was published on October the 5th. It says, but before Guterres worked for the UN, he served as the president of Socialist International, which I've already told you, a global network of national socialist parties, listen, seeking to establish democratic socialism around the world. Socialist International was formed after World War II and helped fund socialist movements in Spain, in Portugal, and in the late 1980s, Socialist International even funded the communist Sandinistas in Nicaragua. You say, what's the difference between socialism and communism? There's not any difference. We're talking about Marxism here. Okay, now, did you hear that Socialist International, that Mr. Guterres was the head of, helped fund the communist Sandinistas in Nicaragua? Remember when the communists took over Nicaragua? Say, what's the word Sandinista mean? Here's what happened. I happened to read the whole history of this. The communist tactic is when they go into a nation to try to take it over, they will pick a national hero and they will take his name and they will identify with it and say, we believe the same thing he believed. And the people are so unlearned, they don't know any better. Well, Nicaragua had a hero that they all revered. His name was Sandano. So the communists took the name Sandano and put it together with the word communist and made Sandinistas. So the Sandinistas and the Roman Catholic clergy, many of them, laid their clerical collar aside. They were liberation theologists. And they picked up machine guns and they overthrew the government of Nicaragua, working together with the Socialist International. It says right here that the Socialist International funded the communists. Now then, the head of the Socialist International is becoming the head of the United Nations. Oh my goodness. I think we're in more trouble than I thought we were. Wow. I'm starting to make my own head swim. But somebody, you say, I just wish you wouldn't talk about this. You get me upset. I want to get you upset. We need to get upset to get off of our sofas and to do something about this before it's too late. We've got to make sure that America comes back from the brink of government of men and get back to trusting God. That's what free enterprise is all about. We don't pass a bunch of rules to control everything. It's liberty. It's free enterprise. And that's what America has been built on. That's what made this nation the greatest nation on earth. And why are we going downhill? Because we've got so much socialism, it's dragging us down. We need to kick the socialism out of American life, get back to freedom. You'll be shocked at how quickly we will prosper again. Okay. Well, back to the phones. Right here in Texas, Catherine, thanks for calling. What's on your mind? Catherine, are you still with me or have you gone? Well, it looks like Catherine got tired of hearing me rant and rave and disappeared, and I don't really blame her.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, you are here, Catherine.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe I was hitting the dead zone or something.
Okay, well, what's on your mind?
Don't hang up on me. Well, what's on my mind is I'm listening to you, and this is the stuff that's been bothering me for quite some time. It looks like in the social media, the regular news channels, almost everybody has got the Republican candidate sold out, and it's like that Hillary's our only hope. Well, I really hope not, and I don't know what to do about it because it seems like our backs are against the wall. And I was wondering, I know that in the Bible when things got tough for the little guy, fasting and praying always has helped. And I do know that has helped change God's mind sometimes because I have had people tell me, don't worry about it, it's already written in stone, there's nothing we can do about it now. And I put a lot of stock in what you say and what you know, how can we help ourselves? And I'm one of those that don't want to sit on my hands. I want to get out there and do something.
Well,
So-
Catherine, first of all, you hit the nail on the head. The Bible says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. That's the first thing we need to do. We need to
Right.
repent of same-sex marriage. We need to repent of abortions. We need to
Exactly.
repent of ignoring Jesus Christ, because he's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He's the creator of the universe, and we need to
Amen.
bow our knee to him. But
Amen.
one more thing I want to say to you, Catherine, is this. God's will is not always done. It is not God's will for anybody to be under the tyranny of socialism. But a lot of people are, because it's
Right.
Satan's will. You overcome Satan's will through fasting and through prayer.
Right.
You also overcome Satan's will through preaching and telling the truth that we're trying to do today. So that's the first thing we need to realize. First of all, people need to quit being so confused, because Satan specializes in confusing people so they don't know what to do. They don't know who to vote for.
That's right.
And so consequently, I'm not trying to tell you who to vote for. I'm trying to tell everybody listening to me today, you need to vote against world government and
Exactly.
for economic freedom. That's what you need to do. I don't care who the candidates are. You need to
Right.
vote against all of these entangling alliances. You need to vote against people that want to bring in all these foreigners that don't believe in Jesus Christ. I think it's like 1/100% of the Syrian refugees coming in are Christian. The other 99.99% of them are Muslim. And we're importing
Right.
all that into this country. That doesn't mean we hate them. It just means they're going to bring their political ideology with them, and it's going to end up undermining further the basis on which this nation was built, the Judeo-Christian belief system, and that's what made this
right.
nation great. So you're right on target, Catherine. That's what we got to do.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Brother Baxter, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yes,
it so
sir.
much.
Yes, sir.
Let's now go to Jim, calling from Indiana. Hello, Jim.
Yeah, they talk about the red beast, and then it talks about the eagle's wings. Does that mean we're not going to go socialist communist because red's for the socialist?
Well, let me fill in the blanks so all of our listeners can understand what you just said, Jim. The red beast in Revelation chapter number 17 is a 7-headed, 10-horned beast. And that's the symbol of the end-time world government. Now, that same beast appears in Revelation 13, only it's not described as red there. It's described as having the body of the leopard, Germany, the feet of the bear, Russia, the mouth of the lion, Great Britain, the 10 horns of the 10-horn kingdom coming out of Europe. That's the one world government of the Antichrist. But another picture of it tells us it will be red or socialistic. The color red is used for socialism in Revelation chapter number 6. Verse 2 and 3, it describes international communism there as a red horse, because red's the official color of communism. And then in Revelation 17, it shows this red beast, and on its back is a woman, which is speaking of the Roman Catholic Church and all the rest of the Protestants that are going to end up in alliance with her. So yes, that's speaking of the one world governmental system that is coming just ahead of us. It's in formation in front of our eyes right now.
The question I had, though, since the eagle's wings are helping Israel at the end, does that mean we don't go as part of that one world communist government?
And that's the good news, Jim. I'm glad you asked the question. Yes, in Revelation chapter 13, where the beast, the one world government beast of the Antichrist is depicted, verses 1 and 2, the feet of the bear is Russia, their official symbol. The mouth of the lion is Great Britain, their official symbol. The body of the leopard is Germany. Germany's most famous tank is its leopard tank. And then the 10-horn kingdom is going to come out of Europe. All those are going to be the key participants in the kingdom of the Antichrist, and they're moving together right now. However, the eagle's wings, which were depicted back in the Old Testament in Daniel chapter 7, when all the elements of Daniel 7 were brought over to Revelation 13, one was left behind. The eagle's wings. The eagle's the United States of America. The eagle is not included in the world government beast. However, it is shown in Revelation 12, one chapter before Revelation 13, And the eagle is depicted as defending Israel against the Antichrist and his one world government. So yes, I do believe America is getting ready to reverse. Whether we do it in this election or whether we do it in the next election, this may be our only chance to reverse right now. And I would just say...
So probably the mark of the beast won't come to America?
I believe there's a very strong chance the mark of the beast will not come to America, but America should be a harbor of safety when this all comes crashing down on the human race, and it's getting ready to do it. I cannot tell you exactly when, but as soon as they sign the Middle East peace agreement, I'll be able to tell you exactly when. I cannot until that time. We may be 2 years away from that agreement or 3 years away. I don't know exactly how long, not very long. Anyway, we're getting very close to that time, and it's very important for all of us to realize that the prophecy does not say America is going to be a part of the kingdom of the Antichrist. It says we're not going to be. That means we have to have a turnaround. I think our chance to do it is right now. We need to back off from world government. We need to reestablish American sovereignty. We need to rebuild our economy and be the strong nation that God wants us to be. But we don't need to lose our soul. We need to be compassionate, loving, and fearing God at the same time that we're doing all of these things. Now, if it doesn't happen this time, it's still going to happen because the prophecies never fail. Jim, we've got to let you go. We are totally...
Anybody but Hillary.
Pardon?
Anybody but Hillary.
Well, we only have two choices, really. I know there's two other minor candidates, but they don't have a chance right now. So you'll be voting between a pro-world government person and an anti-world government person, and you have to make that decision as to who you're going to vote for. Okay, I got to let you go, Jim, right now. We're just about out of time. I want to say to all of you out there, Endtime Ministries needs to grow exponentially. This is not the end of the fight. We've just begun to fight. And so we need you to stand with us with your prayers and with your support. If you're out there and you're not yet a partner with Endtime Ministries, I'm inviting you to call today. I know that I've been strong today, but I felt like I had to be. Somebody's got to tell the truth. The Democratic Party is the Socialist Democratic Party of America. And they're not that democratic. If they don't like laws, they ignore them and issue executive orders and do what they want to do. Now, I'm not telling you that everybody on the Republican side is right either, because many of them are also for one world government. You got to be able to tell the difference. It's what they stand for, not what their label is, not what their party is. You shall know the truth will set you free. So call us. Become a partner today, 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463. If you want to know more, get our Understanding the End Time series. Everybody on earth should go through that series right now. One more time, 800-END-TIME.
End of the Age is a production of Endtime Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Endtime Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.